Hey friends, how's it going and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I want to share with you a small project that I've done a few days ago to highlight some of the principles that I've learned from the iOS 13 framework. So this includes the compositional layout as well as the diffable data source, and I also want to share about how I use the footer to handle pagination using the placeholder image, and finally also the panel preview. Okay, so as you can see, this is the very basic project that I have over here, and I have the panel preview over here, and this is basically a list of different products, with an indefinite list. All right, so what it means is that when I scroll all the way to the bottom, okay, I will paginate and have this footer view showing an activity indicator, and then I'm going to load new products. So as you can see, product 20, 21, 22. Okay, so let's scroll all the way to the bottom. All right, and you notice that when I scroll fast enough, okay, maybe you'll see the placeholder image. So I want to show you how I achieve that as well. I think that's pretty basic, but I think to some people, some of you, this could be helpful for you. So let me just scroll all the way to the bottom because there was some caching previously. All right, so you can see the placeholder image over here. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so let's talk about the panel preview. So how do I achieve this? So this is a SwiftUI feature. I think I talked about that in my previous videos. If you have not watched any of those, you can check out those. All right, so how I achieve this is by importing SwiftUI all the way at the bottom. All right, so you can put this import statement all the way to the top. It's really up to you. What's important is that you have this thing called the preview provider here. All right, so this code is basically boilerplate stuff, which you can just pause the video and copy this, or you can just check out the link that I have inside the video description, which I'll upload the repository of I'll upload the source code of this video. Okay, so basically I wrap this inside the navigation controller, and that's the reason why I have the navigation title over here. So one of the advantage of using this preview provider is that every time I make a change, it's going to update over here without having to rerun the simulator. All right, so maybe over here, let's go with products 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's see whether is it running. Okay, it doesn't. I think I have to hit the enter button and then it will re-render by itself. Okay, preview pause. Maybe let me just hit this button to resume it. So let me just wait for a while for the new view to load. Okay, so now I get preview 1, 2, 3. Maybe let me just remove this. Okay, so you notice that it will, okay, it doesn't work very well. Okay, let me just hit backspace again, and then you see that it re-renders by itself. Okay, so maybe let me try collection view dot background color equals to red. I believe this should be enough code for it to re-render by itself. Okay, so let me just remove that, and I think we'll remove the red color background. All right, good. Okay, so let's talk about the different parts. So I thought of coding this from scratch to show you the thought process, but I realized that would take far too long. So in this video, what I'll do is to just walk through the different segments and maybe provide some explanation so that it's better than just watching me code, which will take like 30 minutes long. Okay, so let's first look at the structure of the code first. Okay, the supporting files is all the standard stuff that I've just hide it inside this folder so that we don't get so that it looks neater. So over here we have the controller, we have the view, and we have the model. So let's look at the model first. So it's a very simple strut. It has just the name and the image URL because that's really all we need. Okay, we have the footer view. So the footer view is the one that you see the pagination happening. We have an activity indicator inside. This is the native indicator view, which I add this to the sub view, and I use auto layout. Okay, before that, I forgot to tell you about the two libraries that I've imported. So this is SD Web Image to handle the loading of the images on the image view, as well as SnapKit, which is a library to handle auto layout. Hi developers, I want to introduce you to my brand new course that I've created this year in 2023. This is the iOS and Swift MVVM combined SnapKit, Snapshot, UI and unit test course. Alright, so this is all the skills that you need to become a senior iOS engineer, and I've created this course to share all the knowledge that I've acquired for the past 7 years. So if you're a developer with 2 or 3 years of experience, look no further because this course is going to supercharge your skills to land that senior developer role. I will provide promo links in the video description, so do check it out. Okay, so over here I add the activity indicator in the sub view, and then I center it to the I make it to the center, and then I set the property heights when stopped. Okay, so I create a function over here, toggle. So if I set is unable to be true, I will start the animation, otherwise I will stop the animation. All right, and of course stopping the animation would hide the activity indicator because of this property over here that is being set to true. Okay, so let's look at the product cell. So this is a very typical UI collection view cell. I have the placeholder image, which is photo.view. So if you do not know about this system name thing, let me just show it to you. SF symbol. So you can just download this from, I think, your Apple developers account, and it allows you to use any of these icons over here. So photo view. So you know, I just type in photo, and you can just choose whatever that you like. So I choose photo.view. I just put it in. You just have to ensure that you initialize the UI image with system name. And then what I did was I set the tint color to system gray, so you see that gray color tint color. All right. Okay, so me just close this, and then I have a label. So this label is this one over here. All right, so this is the simulator. I have the different labels. Sorry, I have the labels over here. And then what do we have? The product image view. So creating the image view, setting the content mode, pretty standard stuff. And what I did was immediately I set the image to be placeholder image. All right, so every time it renders before the image is being downloaded, okay, before the URL is being fetched and the image data being downloaded, we show the placeholder image first. Okay. So let's see the layout function. Layout function is being called inside the initializer. So immediately once the cell initialized, we do the auto layout. We set up all the subviews. Okay, pretty standard stuff over here. And over here it looks like I did some border width and border color as well, maybe just to create the outline of the cell so it looks a bit more obvious. And inside the configure method, I pass in the product, all right, which populates the title, the name, as well as the image over here. And inside SD web image, you can also set a UI image inside the placeholder image property as well. All right. Okay, so I think I'm pretty much done with this too. Now let's come to the collection view controller. All right, so you notice that this is loading again. Okay, so let's go all the way from the top. I have a section over here. So this is mandatory if you are using, I believe, the DiffableDataSource. Okay, you have to pass in the section over here. So you notice that this object uses generics. So you have to pass in a section as well as the item, which or basically the model to be represented inside the cell itself. Okay, so one thing to note is that this product has to conform to hashable. Okay, if you remove hashable, it's going to complain. And one pitfall or one disadvantage I see inside the DiffableDataSource is that if you have information that is similar, okay, basically if you don't have unique information inside this strut itself, it's going to crash. Okay, so in my view, that's not a very well, I mean, of course that's the intended design, but you know, as a front-end developer, you don't want your app to crash if back-end doesn't do a good job, right? But anyway, this is one of the limitation, and I believe that one way to circumvent it is to add, you know, maybe some kind of UID over here. So maybe like let UID equals to you know, like UID string. Okay, I think this would kind of help. This is more like a workaround. Okay, but I'm going to remove that because I know that I'm not setting any repeated values over here. All right, so I have two properties here: the data source, which is this one over here, and layout. And this layout is the compositional layout. So this is really useful if you're building more complex collection views. So for example, if you see some home screens, you know, some of the bigger apps, you realize that the home screen isn't just showing a list or, you know, a simple button or label. It's quite complex. You have different swim lanes, you know, it's sort of like a collection view with collection views inside its collection view cell. All right, so if you look at maybe like even I don't know, like the Grab app, yeah, you see that kind of layout happening. All right, so this is helpful for that. Over here I have a products property that holds the instance or rather the array of all the products which I will be fetching. And then I have the subscription over here, which means I'm using the compile framework. And I have a property here that says is paginating, currently set to false. And this flag is used to define whether this animating indicator should animate or not. All right, so obviously when I scroll all the way to the end, is paginating should be set as through. And the moment I fetch and you know, all the products, I should set this to be false so that this will not animate anymore. All right. Okay, so let's look through this load view, the life cycle. So I have load view as well as view did load. Personally, I like to use load view to put in all the UI stuff over here. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with doing this as well. Okay, you might be more familiar with this. All right, everything inside the view did load, but personally, I like to do it this way instead. Okay, as long as it works, it's good to go to me. Okay, so I observe, meaning to say I'm doing some kind of binding. I'm basically observing the products. So every time this products array is being updated, I'm going to basically reload the collection view. Okay, so that's what I'm doing here. Setting up the navigation should be pretty easy. Just setting the large titles property to be true and setting the products as the title. Okay, let's come down to set up data source. So this is the part. Okay, so data source equals to init. All right, so I'm initializing the data source, and let's look at what the data source is this one over here. All right, so I'm initializing this, passing in the collection view, and I have a closure over here which returns to me the collection view, the index path, as well as the item. So over here what I'm doing is that this closure would require me to return a collection view cell. All right, so this is very similar to the cell for row if you are using the, so to speak, legacy method. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm switching through the segment, the section, and the way I'm getting the section is by initializing it by passing in the index path.section, and that's why we have the int over here. Okay, so for example, if I have a different section, let's call this maybe recommended for you. So let's assume this is some kind of e-commerce app, all right, like Amazon. So you have another swim lane maybe. Okay, this is how you do it. Equals to recommended for you, and then maybe this could be a totally different kind of cell. Okay, so maybe it's called the recommended for you cell, something like that. Okay, so I'm going to remove this because I'm keeping this example really simple with just one section over here. So let me just remove this. Okay, so where are we right now? So inside over here, we are creating the cell, dequeuing the cell. This is the very standard stuff from the cell for row function, and then configuring the cell by passing in the model. And you notice that this model, this item actually comes from the closure, this closure property over here, or the value over here. So if you're using the old school way, we'll do something like let item equals to items. All right, this items is this guy of, not items, products. Okay, we'll do something like let items equals to product equals it'll be something like index path dot row. Right, we will pass in the item inside over here, but in diffable data source is very different, whereby you pass in the models inside the snapshot, and this will just render this for you. Okay, so this is from here, and that's the reason why this has to be defined right at the start. Okay, so where are we right now? Okay, so at the bottom here we have the supplementary view provider. So what this does is that it generates the footer view. All right, so we are telling the collection view which footer view to use. So as you can see, this is the code that does it, and over here footer view I have toggle loading is enabled. I pass it is paginating. So this is from all the way at the top over here. So meaning to say I'm going to be toggling this true and false with certain conditions. So we are going to get to that slightly later. Okay, so let's come now to the compositional layout. So again, I'm initializing this. All right, guys, one thing that I forgot to say is that you notice over here that these are all false unwrapped. I have a bang over here, and this is good in a sense where you have less code because you don't have to do gut statements or you don't have to do if-lets. But of course, if you know what you're doing, it's good. But if you are working with less experienced developers, or maybe this can be problematic, because this means that the ordering of the function calls is important. Let me give you an example. So if you see over here, setup collection view, I'm doing setup collection view. I'm doing collection view dot collection view layout equals to layout. And what is layout? Layout is this guy over here. All right. So meaning to say, if this layout is being read before it's being initialized, then it's going to crash. So you see over here, setup compositional layout is actually being called before setup collection view. So this is one of the constraints. So again, for this example, I choose to false unwrap it. All right, I choose to, add a bang over here so that I don't have to work with so many gut statements over here. But in your production code, maybe you might want to consider to make this an optional instead, okay? Alright, so where was I? Okay, setting up of the compositional layout. So initializing this, and this pass us a section index as well as the environment over here. So this env parameter is basically telling us what is the device type. So maybe if this is an iPad, okay, you have different sizing, then you can change your composition. All right, so this gives you a lot of flexibility if you're working with different kind of devices. All right, so since we're only working with a grid over here, the same thing I did was to get the section, switch through the grid, and then return a section. All right, so how I like to do this is that, okay, let's assume we don't have any of this. How I like to do it is I'll do something like return.init. Okay, so I know that I have to, okay, so you see over here, the description is create a section containing the specified group. So I'll do something like this, and then I know I have to pass in a group. So let group equals to NS collection layout group. All right, so I think I have to do horizontal. All right, so I'll pass in the group over here, and then I'll basically work my way up. Okay, so let's say group size equals to NS collection layout size, and then pass in the size here. And then I realize I have to pass in the dimensions over here, and I have to pass in an item over here. So NS collection layout item. So let's go with let item equals to NS collection layout item. Then I have to do this. So I have to pass this here, and then set the different width. Maybe I'm going to go with 1, height 1, size, and then okay, I have to do like let item size. All right, you know where I'm going with this. So basically I'm working all the way to the top until it stops complaining. So it looks like item is the last item over here, as you can see here. All right, so anyway guys, you can just reference this code over here, so you don't have to do this by yourself. Okay, so if we do not have any of this footer over here, basically this activity indicator thing over here, we actually don't need this thing over here. All right, so you can basically just return this thing. But if you have a footer or a header, so you notice now I don't have that anymore. All right, so let me just re-enable that again, and then you'll see that the footer is back. Let it refresh for a while. It takes about 2 seconds to load because I set it that way. Okay, so let's come down to the next function, which is observe. All right. So this is basically observing the products variable. So what I'm doing is that I'm filtering to ensure that I'm only calling this when the array is not empty, because if it's empty, there's no point reloading the collection view. All right, so filter that the products are not empty, receive this on the main queue, basically dispatching it to the main queue, and then basically I just reload the snapshot. Okay, so let's we'll go to that in just a while. All right, so this is the function that I call to fetch the product. So obviously I'm not making a real API call, so you might be wondering, how do you get the images then? So let me show it to you. So I'm using the dispatch queue, adding a 2 seconds delay to kind of simulate, like, you know, making an API call. And then what I'm doing is that I'm getting the current count of the products, so basically the array. So at the start obviously it's going to be 0, and then I'm going to loop this, all right, and loop this 10 times. So 10 products each time, each page, so to speak, each API call 10 products, and then creating the product over here, adding to the temporary array over here, and then finally I'm appending that inside the products variable. And then finally I'm just calling the completion handler to say that, hey, I'm done fetching the products. All right, so I hope that this is easy to understand. All right, so one thing cool about this this image is that you can use Unsplash, which is pretty cool. So you can use this format over here and then just pass in I think any keywords you want over here. So maybe let's call this, I don't know, maybe pets. Maybe let's see whether we get dogs and cats over here. Okay, so yeah, we're getting, oh, okay, yeah, so it's all right, so that's pretty cool, right? So this is a power tip for you. This is really nice to work with. I believe you can use n and then put in some kind of unique number over here or string over here, so that you get a different image each time. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my products. Okay, so what else do we have? Okay, reloading of the snapshot. So this is basically the code for the data source, the diffable data source snapshot. This is how you have to do it. Define a snapshot, passing in the section and the products. So this has to be similar to let me see, yeah, to snapshot. It should be, yeah, it should be similar to this one over here. Okay, so the signature has to match, and then we just append the grid, all right, the section. So if you have multiple sections, you have to do it this way, and then you append the model to the section itself. All right, so let's assume if you have a different okay, I'll not get to that. That's a bit more complex if you have more different sections, and you have to create some kind of enum to differentiate the different models in the cells. Okay, I'll talk about that maybe in a different video because that's a little bit more complex. And then what I do is I apply the snapshot. So basically this is very similar to collectionView.reload data. All right, it's a more fancy way of doing things over here, and you can also animate the differences as well. I think if I set this to true, I'm not sure how is it going to turn out. Maybe let me just have a quick look. Okay, 2 seconds later it's going to show, so let me scroll to the bottom. Okay, I don't see a major difference. Okay, I think you can also set the animation style as well, so I'm gonna leave that to you to check it out if you're interested. Okay, so false. Okay, so over here what do we have? This is the pagination handling. So quite simple. I extend this so that, you know, it's neater. So this is the will display function. So basically I'm saying I'm checking whether the cells that's being displayed is the last one by checking the item, whether are we in the products.count -1, and if it's yes, then I'll say, okay, last reached, as you can see. Let me just scroll down all the way to the bottom. I'm not sure if this is showing up. I don't think so. Let me just run the simulator, and then I think that would show the console printouts. Okay, so build succeeded. So let me just wait for a while. Okay, so let me just scroll all the way to the bottom. Okay, last reached paginate now. Last reach paginate now. All right, so basically once I see that it's time to paginate, I will set this is paginating to be true. Okay, and then once I fetch the products, I have a completion handler to say that, okay, we are done with that, paginating should be false then. All right, so pretty straightforward stuff. Okay, I think I'm kind of come to the end of this video already. I hope that you have benefited from my sharing. I think maybe one of the bigger complexities would be this one over here, because I kind of struggled with, you know, deciding whether to use a horizontal or vertical. Let me see where that is. Yeah, this one over here. Sometimes it's horizontal, sometimes it's vertical, and then you have to play around with the insets and things as well. So that took me a while to kind of get used to it, but I'm pretty sure you should be able to discover that on your own. Alright guys, I finally come to the end of the video, and thanks for watching all the way to the end, and I hope that you benefited. And I'm gonna leave the source code in the description below. So that's all I have for you, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers and goodbye.